G'day, legends. It's Jai, that Aussie metal guy here. Before we get stuck into another great interview brought to you by Crannk.com and thatmetalstation.com, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe, and that way you can keep up to date with all the best music and interviews from all over the world. Hey, how you all going? It's Jai, that Aussie metal guy here with Crannk.com and with thatmetalstation.com. So tonight, wherever you are in the world, it's with great pleasure that I'm getting to have a chat with Bill Staley from Out of Darkness. Drummer, features Brent, Deadly Smedley of Iced Earth as well. Bill, cheers for joining me for a chat about Out of Darkness.
What's up, man? Nice to be here.
Nah, man, it's nice to get to have a chat with you. As I was saying pre-recording, that Maggie sent this over of Kill Sound, and she's like, "You need to check out Out of Darkness. You got to have a chat with these guys." Can you tell me all about how the band began? Where did this all come from?
Sure. Well, they were together. I believe they got together around 2020, which was without me. There was another guitar player first. But I think Brent was looking to do something after, what happened with Iced Earth. And our manager, Rich, found Eric at a jam night, an open mic night, singing, and sent Brent some videos. And this is my understanding of it.
Yeah.
And Brent was really impressed because Eric is really good. And then so they started writing songs and they recorded the album, and then subsequently brought on Bronzell and Cody, and Sean, the first guitar player. And then so they went out and did some shows, did some touring, and Sean ended up leaving. And they asked me if I would want to play, and I did. So I've been with them since it's almost a year. I think it was maybe October of last year that I started rehearsing with them, and we had our first shows in February.
So what was that period like, coming in and joining like this new band Out of Darkness? You know what I mean? And they've already got their first album out, and it's still probably a good time to join the band when it's relatively fresh, because new bands do have these kind of teething pains. People come and go till they get a lineup going. So what's the last year been like for you coming and joining these guys?
Yeah, it was a little, I had a little bit of trepidation, not because of the guys, or, I mean, obviously everybody's really talented, and, Brent's got quite a name for himself, but because, they had a kind of a distinct style, and, with the 8-string guitars and stuff like that. And that's really not my thing so much. I'm more of a traditional guy, power metal, speed metal, and maybe the classic stuff. But I do, well, I mentioned when we were talking before this, 12-Foot Ninja, like I love stuff like that to listen to it, though I don't necessarily want to play it, But to me, they had a nice balance of, what we'll call the more modern sound mixed with some classics. And so, when I was talking to them about playing, it was just, my concern was, hey, I don't, I have a certain way that I write, and I don't want that to conflict with what you guys are doing. If I'm going to be in the band, I want to have a vehicle for my music, but I don't want it to completely change your sound. And they're like, well, and I was reassured by the guys, like, well, the sound is what each of us brings. So, and the way I think of it is, like, for me, I love Led Zeppelin. I always bring up, they're my favorite band, but you can't say, like, you can hear Zeppelin and know that it's them, but you can't say they have a particular style, whatever it is. And so I think that's kind of what we're going for. Like, we may have stuff that's, the 8-string modern sound. We may have something that's more power metal, something more thrash metal. We may have little elements that are not metal at all, though, we're primarily a metal band. So
yeah, it does go across, as you just a quick touch on that, it does go across all these different genres. Like even Control does kind of really get quite heavy as well. He does have quite a versatility in his voice that does make it able to jump around those genres as well and create your own sound.
It is. Well, there will definitely be more of that with the new stuff. So, that EP was recorded before I was part of this. And actually it was recorded before Cody or Bronzell were part of it as well. So each of us, you figure there are 3 additional personalities and styles that are contributing now, in addition to what was already there. And Cody is more of a, modern, I would call it a modern prog style. That's more his thing. Whereas Bronzell comes from a completely different background. I think it's more, and he'll kill me if I get this wrong, but more of like maybe a classic Motown, rhythm and blues, gospel style. At least what he says. But yeah, and then I already told you what I'm into, so it'll be a nice melting pot.
It'll be a nice melting pot and rather exciting. Quickly before we jump into that, Bill, tell me a little bit about kind of your history as a guitarist. Kind of how did your journey begin as a guitarist and kind of lead you to where you are today?
Sure, I started playing in high school. I think it was maybe around ninth grade, and it was for probably the reason that most guys get into it. It was for a girl, you know. Yeah, I don't even remember her name, but I liked a girl, and she liked a guy that played guitar. I'm like, well, I have to play guitar too. So I started playing guitar and never got the girl, but then I started really getting into music. And so, yeah, I was one of those guys that would just practice an obscene amount of hours a day. Like I remember, I think I started playing on my 15th birthday, which was in January. And that summer break from school, I didn't go out and do anything. I pretty much stayed home and played like 10 to 12 hours a day the whole summer. So by the time I got through that first year, I'd already played as much as, most guys who play like 3 to 5 years. But yeah, so quickly, I learned quickly. And when I was 19 or 20, I think it was, I moved to Los Angeles and went to GIT, Musicians Institute. And I went there for a little while. I had to leave due to a death in the family, and I moved to Texas. And I played there for a few years until I ended up coming back to Pittsburgh, which was that's my main home. And about 9 years ago, left Pittsburgh to come to Florida, and met Brent, and we were just friends from kind of getting to know each other. And I knew of Iced Earth, obviously, and he has quite a reputation. And we'd always, we had jammed together a few times and always talked about putting something together. But he had Iced Earth and other things, and so it seemed like every time we would get started, it would get sidetracked, and then everybody knows what happened. And then I had some other bands going when this band got together, and so they didn't ask me. And then when there was an opening, I was told, hey, you interested in this? So, and that's how we ended up here.
And then that's how we ended up here. You didn't get the girl, but you did find your real true love, mate, the guitar. That's for
Right.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a cool story, man. And I do want to come back to now, the present time. It must be an exciting time for you. As you said, you come in after they make the album. So, you know what I mean, to come going forward and making the new stuff with Out of Darkness. And the first album's great, but looking forward to this second one. Must be a really, really exciting time where you can actually have an input on the album. All the guys, as you said, Bronzell and Cody, can get in there as well. And it must be exciting for Brent and Eric as well, having this solid lineup now that are all excited to work together to create new music.
Yeah, we're very much looking forward to it. We should have about at least maybe 10 songs on the next album, and we would hope for an early 2023 release.
Okay. So
Yeah.
the last single that come out, Creeper, man, what was that like? Was the end of last year? Did you have anything to do with that one as well, or was that one that had just come out as well and you kind of missed?
Yeah, so that had
Dude.
just come out right when I was joining. However, it is the first one that everybody else played on.
Cool.
So that one wasn't just Brent and Eric.
Nice.
It was Bronzell and Cody
Oh, cool.
played on that. Yeah, so they were just finishing up the mixing on that when I joined.
Yeah.
But that is also a good indication of you can, that song, while it still sounds like the band, there are little variants, and you can hear some of the other influences coming in.
Yeah. That's why I wanted to mention that. Have you guys started working on the album yet? Tell us what's going on at the moment with Out of Darkness.
Sure. Yeah, we have 4 songs that are mostly tracked. I would say, 80 to 90% tracked. And then we listen to them back, and, we'll go in and change some things and touch them up. But each of us have the means to record at home, so we do a lot of the demoing at home, and then we go into the real studio for the final product. But there's enough, to tell you the truth, there's enough material written for probably 2 albums. Um, but and we don't believe in B-sides, so it would be everything that was for an A side. But if it doesn't make this album, it's not because it wasn't good enough. It's just because it wasn't ready enough at the time.
That,
So
that's really cool. So how are things going playing live, man? I'm going to ask about, are you guys playing live? What's happening over your way with all of that?
sure, we are. As the world starts to reopen, I'm not sure what it's like there, but it helps that we're from Florida, because Florida didn't close down as much as some other places in the country. So we played in well, since I've joined, we started out, our first few shows were in Florida, and we've played a tour up the East Coast, up into like Pennsylvania, Virginia, New Jersey, Delaware, uh, that area. And then we are going out in 2 weeks to play a couple shows in the Carolinas, and then another show in Florida in November.
It seems
And then
like everyone's really digging what you guys are putting down because, as you said, you're playing these shows, but also you're getting it. I know it's just people following on socials and YouTubes and that, but it's all, you're getting some good numbers over there. You know what I mean? People actually watching that, and it must be really encouraging to going, fuck, these people are getting really excited about where we're going here, and that must really push you and encourage you when it comes back to the making of the album as well.
it really is, because we were just told by our manager that across all of our social media platforms, that the video for I Surrender recently just topped 500,000 streams or
Everyone
views.
needs to go buy the album.
That would be nice too. Yeah. And so I hear something like that, I'm like, holy shit, 500,000 people give a shit about us. That's pretty cool. Um, so it's hard to comprehend that when you're just, the guys jamming in a little room, and you think, wow, there are that many people out there that, somewhat care about what we're doing. It's very encouraging.
Yeah, and to actively track you down as well, because as I was saying earlier on, before we jumped in, it's hard to keep up with the amount of great music and bands and stuff that's coming out at the moment. So when you're
Yeah.
just brought out your first EP album, whatever you want to call it, and you're just working on the follow-up now, and to have that feedback and response is just great to see.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it was very exciting.
Single later in the year or something. What's the plans? Can you say? I know you can't say too much, man. But when can we? Have you talked about when you've got another single or release coming out for Out of Darkness?
No, but you know what? That's a good idea. Maybe that'll happen because of you. Um, no, so we have 4, as I mentioned, that are almost done, and but it might make sense to, because
Slowly tease them
everything.
out. A lot of bands do it these days. They slowly tease out a single, then a single, then another single, then another single,
Yeah.
then they finally drop the album. You know what I
Well,
mean?
no, and you're right, and to think of how much everything has changed in the
Yes.
the streaming, the way things are now, is you see bands do that. They'll, like Megadeth new album just came out, but they were releasing songs for, I think it's been a couple months. They release a song and then wait and then a song. So yeah, maybe we should get out another song in the next month or two.
Yeah, it's a different time, and it's always great to get like people watching this Out of Darkness fans. Yes, it's always great to have those streams. I know
Right.
the bands love every single person that streams their music, but it's also great when a fan goes over and buys the album. You know what I mean, and jumps into a whole album, listens to some of those deep cuts, and has the physicals. I'm a child. I grew up in the '80s, mate. I'm born
Yeah.
1980, 1990. Always CD store, and there's nothing like having those physical copies as well, and it means a hell of a lot to the band too, just doing that.
I I do miss the days, and I'm probably aging myself a little bit, but
Same.
of going to a metal record store. Back in Pittsburgh, there was a record store. It was called B&D Records, if anybody from Pittsburgh is watching this. And like every couple of weeks we would take, whatever money we had from our jobs at 15 and 16 years old, and all the buddies would go, and we would just look through and get the latest stuff. And I remember, that's where I bought Ride the Lightning, and the first Megadeth album, and Anthrax, and people like that don't get to experience that anymore. Or the feeling I remember buying Power Slave on vinyl, and you take it out and you read the lyrics and look at the artwork, and it's an experience while you're listening to the music. It's not just listening to the music. And I feel bad that a lot of kids these days don't get that.
Yeah, it's the closest thing for me that I'll ever get to a religion is music, putting on those headphones and really immersing yourself in an album. Look, Bill, this has been an absolute pleasure, my friend. I look forward to everything that's happening with Out of Darkness. Hopefully have a chat with you later in the year, check in, see how you guys are going. Do you have any last words, shout outs, thank yous, or anything you'd like to add in that I may have forgotten, my friend?
Well, I thank you for your time. Well, I would say this evening, but this morning for you. And anybody who takes the time, even 5 minutes, to listen to what we do, it's greatly appreciated. It really makes a difference, because a lot of times you get frustrated with people aren't buying albums as much as they used to, and you start, there are times when you are like, is it even worth this anymore? Do people give a shit? And then you find out, well, 500,000 people watched our video. Like, yeah, maybe they do. Maybe keep going. So I just want to thank the people that do that. So thank you.
Yes, they do. It's been an absolute pleasure. Everyone grab some Out of Darkness, put it in the stereo, crank it up really loud. The neighbors are going to want to hear this one as well. Cheers, mate.
Take care. Thank you.
Thanks, mate. See you.
Mate, hey, fucking my man, fucking Jobber, that fucking metal guy, motherfucker.